everybody's got to buckle in.
Yeah.
This is a long one. We tried to condense it as much as we can, but there's a lot going on. Grab a blanket, grab a drink, hunker down because we're in for a ride.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. I'm Amanda.
I'm Nicole.
And we're Book Sluts. We read, recap, and review smutty books. And we are on our third book of the Vicious Lost Boys series. Which book are we reading, Nicole?
We are reading The Vicious Darling by Nikki St. Crowe.
Nikki St. Crowe. Same trigger warnings exist. If you want to see her trigger warnings, you can go on to her website. She has them all listed out there. I want to start off feeling very proud of myself because in the last episode, I kind of touched on the fact that the original Peter Pan and Wendy book has some racist undertones to it. And in this book, in the acknowledgement, the author basically identifies that like she realizes there is some racist undertones happening in this book and that she has reached out for some support and some help to make sure that she's being really respectful of the characters that she's writing. And we love a self-aware queen.
Yeah. Love that.
So the dedications change each book. This book is dedicated to all the girls who were ever afraid to embrace their dark side. These dedications read like a play-by-play of my life.
Yeah, same.
Like actually.
And I love that about this book.
I do too.
I have big thoughts.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Yeah. All right, well, we open not where we want, which is we want to open with Darling.
Yeah.
And instead, we open with a new character's POV, the Crocodile, aka Rock. Again, Rock is a magical humanoid who took Hook's hand along with Peter Pan and is the brother of Nicole's
Vane.
Beloved, Vane. Rock is traveling on a ship with a royal family, the Rimaldis, and they are very wealthy, and Rock is very casually banging one of them, the Princess Amara.
Yep, the youngest one.
The Rimaldis are from Darkland, where he and Vane are originally from. And Rock was really hard to figure out how to introduce because he's a very, very interesting character. He's very likable right away, but it's not in an obvious way at all. He doesn't have any soft edges to him. He's very, very old, very bored. He's a little older than 26. And it's very clear that he is used to being the most powerful person in the room.
Yeah.
Even when the royal family is trying to invite him to dinner and involve him in their royal activities, it's pretty clear that they are always giving him an out so that he doesn't eat them, basically.
Yeah.
The guy through this entire scene is basically thinking of three things, which is power, sex, and food.
Like, who isn't?
Who
isn't? Kind of, yeah, all day.
His character is very interesting to me because he is, I think of all of the characters that she writes, he is the most, I think, well developed.
I completely agree. And we'll see it later too. He's a feminist and just is constantly thinking about powerful women, and he's a very interesting character. I really, really like him. I now really want to read the next series again, even though I didn't finish it the first time, just for him.
I know. Yeah. He makes me want to, because I'm not, especially after this book, I am just not a Hook girl. I just really, really struggle with Hook.
I think I'm just holding on to the Hook that I love in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
I showed you a picture of him.
You did.
He's a nice British.
He's very attractive.
Yes. And I think that's just, I can't get that out of my mind.
That's
just all I want in a man.
This book did change the way that I see Hook, like how I envision him. I do envision him a little bit younger, but still older, I think. Probably mid-40s.
Well, because Rock talks about how old he is and that he only remembers the time when there was a Pan. So you get a sense that he is the oldest person he knows, but Pan is even older than him.
And he refers to everybody as children.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
he just can't be bothered.
He really can't. And I love that about him. The royal family has gotten involved because they want the Darkland Death Shadow returned to the royal family, and they want Rock to obtain it for them from his brother. However, we learn in his point of view that he would never betray his brother, but that Tilly has some secrets she's kind of holding over his head, and they involve Peter Pan. So I think at this point, he's still undetermined on what his next action will be.
Well, he hates Pan to start with.
He does. I don't think that he hates him. I think that he just doesn't care for him.
Sure.
I think that he's kind of ambivalent about Pan. He's more annoyed that his brother chose Pan over him.
Yes.
So he goes to dinner on the ship with the royal family, and Hook's aversion to the ticking of clocks is alluded to here when we learn that Rock has some baseline need for human blood, and he is always carrying around a ticking pocket watch, and he obviously took off Hook's hand, and so they don't directly say this, but as we kind of get this sense of that's where some of this comes from. And again, I just have to go back to the fact that this is this is giving vampire vibes.
This book I could get there. It's not a fun in this book. They are constantly talking about how he needs blood or else.
Or else. We're not talking about or else yet. We'll get there.
But they call him the devourer of men, which also could go vampire.
Yes. And he needs to feed on a schedule, which is why he's sort of a slave to the time. He, at some point in the book, he calls the clock his god. So he doesn't want to go into devourer mode and eat the royal family. So he has some level of like self-control as it pertains to this particular desire. He leaves dinner early. He finds a servant girl just in the nick of time, and he drags her into a room. And we learn that his eyes sort of change when he does the devouring. They turn into kind of glowing crocodile eyes. So that's Rock. Welcome to this book. I really was super annoyed because the last book started immediately where it left off. And this book, I had to go through that whole thing.
Yes.
Hated that.
And I don't love starting a book with introducing a new character and a new backstory. I'm here for Pan. And I want it to start with Pan and Vinny. And then we could have gone to this.
Yeah.
So this book had a really different feel to it than the first two. And I still feel like there's unanswered questions. Like, I still want to know, how did Vane get the shadow from the Romaldi family?
Sure.
And things like that we don't.
Spoiler, we never find that out.
No.
Not in this book or the next book.
Yeah.
So we're back to Peter Pan. Peter Pan has his shadow back, and he and Vane and the twins are headed back from the treehouse. So we are picking up from where they left Captain Hook's territory and are headed back. So we're kind of starting to get back to where we left off at. And along the road, they are intercepted by a wolf who confronts them on the path and then turns and heads in the direction of the treehouse. And Pan, with his powers, has sort of gotten back some of his like literacy of the island language and the energy on the island, but he's still not fully understanding like what this wolf is doing. He knows that the wolf is going to be. He just knows it. So they chase the wolf back to the treehouse and begin to frantically look for Darling. They follow it to Darling's room where they discover Darling asleep in her bed with the wolf acting as guard and Cherry cowering in the corner of the room crying. Bash, I actually switched back to Bash in this book.
Did you? Okay.
I'm
100% Vane in this book. 100%.
Of course you are.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not enough.
I feel like there was not even any Bash in this book. I don't even know what you're there for.
What?
I feel like there wasn't. He didn't make a big mark. He didn't make a big impression.
The twins do not play as big of a role in this book as they do in the other books, but Bash in this book is consistently sort of the only person who really just trusts Winnie and backs up Winnie. Even Kas in multiple parts of the book is saying things like, we're depraved and, you know, we shouldn't be doing this to Winnie. And Bash is
That's true.
And Bash is consistently like, nope. Like Winnie knows
wants it. She's a big girl. Yeah. That's true. Okay.
And he just continuously trusts her and believes in her. And I love that about him. So Bash befriends the wolf. Go figure.
Of course he does.
The big dumb idiot. And Pan begins to interrogate Carrie about why Darling is in her room and not the tomb as they had commanded. And Cherry is saved when Darling awakens and tells the men that she's all right. And although they can all kind of tell that something is off, they take her word for it and they leave her to sleep. The twins are charged with watching over Minnie, and we get a little flashback to an early interaction that the twins have with Pan. They are given a wolf by their father. They name it Balder, and their mother hated it and got rid of it. And while the twins were searching for it, they run into Pan, who's already lost his shadow, and he tells them that their wolf is dead, and they see it floating dead in the lagoon. We're back to present day, and the twins are discussing a memory when Darling wakes up and she has amnesia and can't remember how she got to bed. She doesn't even realize that she has the death shadow. So
Right.
this whole thing is so annoying to me. I fucking hated this. I hated having to wait for them to figure out that she had.
I wasn't as upset this time. My first read, I was super upset. I was like, how can they not tell? How do they not know? But this is too where we find out like that Bash and Kas can like talk to the wolf. And he acknowledges, like, he basically says he's Balder.
Yes. Yeah.
Back.
Darling starts asking about Pan and Vane and expresses that she feels drawn to Vane.
Like she can sense.
She can sense him. She can
and
sense
he feels alone and lonely
and it's not exclusive to him. It sounds like she can sort of sense all of the men, and she can sense the anxiety and some of the heartache that the twins are feeling. And even though she is feeling a lot of pressure to go look for Vane, she sacrifices that desire and edges down the path of consistency by asking Bash to cook.
Yeah. I love that little scene. It's really such a sweet scene where they're gonna make breakfast and they're like, go pick some cloudberries and grab Pan and let's have breakfast. And I thought that was it's a sweet scene.
It's very picturesque. It kind of gives you a better sense of like how deep that they are in with each other at this point. And so Darling finds Pan along the beach, and this wolf has almost kind of become like a familiar to Winnie. He's following her around. He's reluctant to leave her. She wants a moment alone of privacy with Pan. The wolf will not leave. She commands it to leave, and then it still lingers nearby and like spies on them. So this wolf is now a
it's a big part of the story.
Yeah.
It's her wood tick.
Good for her. Pan and her start kind of talking. This is Darling's real first time being with Pan when he has the shadow. And one of the things about his character, aside from the softening that he kind of goes through when it comes to Darling, is that this is the first time that I really truly get a sense of him being a king.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I got the impression that he was important and powerful. I never got kingly vibes from him. And the way that his perception of the world shifts once he has his shadow back is a very entitled kind of kingly energy. But he's softening towards Darling, being very sentimental, telling her how much he missed the sun. And even though he missed the sun, it pales in comparison to the warmth that he feels with Darling. And Darling is like, are you going soft on me? And Pan says to her, in the light, you'll be my queen, and in the dark, you'll be my whore.
And she loves it.
I love it.
Winnie loves that.
I thought that was a great scene.
I do too. I think that whole scene too. And like you get Pan's inner monologue too, where he's talking about since getting his shadow back, he thought he'd just go back to feeling how he used to. And he's acknowledging that these 4 other people have really changed him and shaped him into this better person. So I really, I love that. He's getting more vulnerable here.
He really is. But he says that to Winnie, and Winnie, who is always trying to seduce them.
Always thinking about sex.
Her
and Rock would have been.
Yeah.
Just chef's kiss.
Yeah, they really would have. But we learn a little bit about Wendy, and I can't wait to meet her.
Yeah, same.
Darling tells Pan that she'd like that. And we get, again, an unusual sex scene for this couple because it's very unhinged and very all of the other sex scenes that she has with Peter Pan
Yeah.
are very choreographed. They're very controlled.
Yeah.
Pan,
This is all over the place.
yes. Pan is typically approaching sex with Winnie in a very controlling way. And in this scene, they both are sort of completely out of control. They start on the beat. He picks her up. He flies her back to the house. They get back to the house. They're
Yeah.
breaking shit
Against the wall.
against the walls,
Yeah.
throwing each other around, and they end up rolling into a common room where Vane is reading a book.
Of course he is.
Pan is giddy in this scene. It's almost like
he's so excited to fuck her with the shadow. He knows it'll be transcending, and he is so excited.
But Vane is all business. He wants Darling to tell him why she's not in the tomb.
Yeah, he doesn't care about anything. They're fucking, and he's just like,
this entire scene is so chaotic.
It really is.
Pan is inside of Winnie.
Yeah.
And Vane is like, why weren't you in the tomb?
Yeah, he cannot let it go.
And Pan, in the meantime, is like, why are you killing my buzz?
Literally.
Like, don't you see what we're doing here?
In the middle of something, like, come back later.
I'm not taking it serious. It's not, he's not even mad about it. He's not even being that serious.
No, he's trying to, like, get Vane, like, come on, join in.
And this is where Vane decides that he's gonna use a little bit of his magic power and
scare her into telling him.
Yeah, he's gonna scare her into telling him using his fear tactic of his shadow. And we discover that she is in fact immune to Vane's
she's
powers.
not scared anymore, and he can't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Learning this, Pan decides that he really is going to goad Vane into taking Darling together, which Darling wants very badly. And Vane gives in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I guess, like.
I loved this whole scene.
It's just tame in comparison to what we saw in the last book.
We almost got into an argument about this off of microphone, and I made to stop. And you love a buildup.
I know.
The scene is very buildup heavy. It's very teasing. And when you told me about the scene, you were like, "Oh, there's just like this like one okay scene," and I loved so many things about this scene.
It's a fine scene. It's just I like the buildup of like enemies to lovers.
Sure.
There was the teasing and stuff, but I mean, me in the moment, if somebody's teasing me like that, I'm gonna just start getting fussy.
Sure.
And I just need it now.
Sure. Sure.
So it wasn't my kind of buildup. Yeah. It just wasn't like we had the tree. She had so many orgasms on orgasms last book. And now we get like, okay, I guess she's getting a little DP.
Sure.
Like Vane's fucking her and Pan's fucking her mouth.
Yeah.
But
can I tell you one of the things that I love about this scene?
Yeah. Tell me.
So Winnie is sitting on Vane's lap, like chest to back, right? And she's like, I think Pan describes her as bouncing on his dick. And Pan says he loves that Vane knows what he likes. And I love that so much because that's how you know that this is going to be good for Winnie, that these men know what the other man likes. Yeah. There's no weirdness between the two of them.
No. They've done this before.
They know the physical limitations that exist. They are both invested in Winnie's happiness
and
pleasure in this moment. If you're going to have a threesome with two men, they should know each other well.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I'm not big into the reverse harem, but these books do get there for me.
I love
some of the others don't. That we'll get into in other episodes.
Sure.
But these, I'd be there for.
Do you think it's because you like these guys so much? Like you like their personalities? Because I do think we've talked about a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I do think that you are generally very complimentary of this group of men.
That's very true. I'm not.
And you're not normally.
No, I always have a lot wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think you're also typically more complimentary of the women.
Yes.
So
maybe that is it.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely could be it. 'Cause I do hate when they're a lot older,
Sure.
but when they're immortal
Mhm.
and, like, hundreds of years old, it doesn't bother me at all. Other ones, it really does. If the guy is 40 and she's 21, I can't get past it. But here, if they're, like, thousands of years old and she's 18,
Right. That's totally
I'm okay
fine.
with it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, noted.
it's these guys that I just love. And I love how much they are obsessed with her. You know that's my thing.
I know, you do love that.
And these guys are.
They really are. The thing is that we get a male's POV here, so you know how much they're obsessed with her, but they're not obnoxiously, cloyingly obsessed with her.
Yes,
We
big
know
distinction.
we know that they are because we can see their point of view, but the way that Winnie experiences them is very much, "These are just big, strong men who are here for my pleasure
Yeah,
and my pleasure alone."
yes.
So, anyways, I think the scene is great. Uh,
Should we say what page this is on?
yeah,
Starts on page 41 and goes to 50, so it's a short little scene.
it felt longer to me.
You were just in it,
I was so in it.
completely immersed in it, which is interesting because you don't have the
I don't.
you can't see things.
I asked you that question about if you like the guys, and I think the reason I'm so invested in the scene is because these 2 men are, if I could somehow combine these 2 men's personalities into one
Mhm.
person, I would be really,
Perfect.
really happy. So, or maybe just get one of each. Anyways, Pan comes, Vane comes, and no, Pan come, Vane, who comes first?
Panda's first, yeah.
Pan comes in Darling's mouth, and then he has her get off of Vane's lap. She sits on his face, and then Vane comes in
In
her
her
mouth.
mouth.
He comes twice.
Yeah.
So this is I
Must be a shadow thing. I don't
man, this is a great sex scene. Get over it. Winnie, satisfied, gets lightheaded and passes out. That's how the scene ends. The men don't know what to do for her because she's a human, so they do the only thing that they know, which is to get Smee, which is, as we recall from the last episode, a female pirate that
badass woman.
is such a badass. I love Smee. This book, she shines and
She does.
is
It makes me want a whole series dedicated. We talked
yes.
about that last book, but I still want it. I want
I
it more now.
yeah.
Nikki St. Crowe.
Nikki St. Could you, I know you're kind of
Please.
busy writing The Crocodile, but if we could get a Smee book, that'd be great.
Right.
But it sounds like Smee is familiar with the troubles of ailing human ladies. Smee revives her using smelling salts, and Smee knows right away that she has power. She says, "All these powerful men blind to power when it looks them right in the fucking eye." And when I read that part, it gave me goosebumps.
I am so obsessed
Yeah.
with that part.
It's
Smee
hard.
is a human woman from England, and the fact that she can sense this shadow when whatever Pan is can't, or Vane who has a shadow, they can't tell.
Mhm.
It just the big dumb idiots.
Like time walking around bumping into things, but also I think that it reinforces who Smee is as a person, is that she is very much aware of her power, and it's such a contrast between her and Jerry.
Yes.
Smee does not feel like she is obligated to anybody. She doesn't even feel obligated to Hook, and she
No.
serves. And we learn that she is a very neutral party in
Yeah.
all of this. And I love her so much. The women.
I would have been fine if Winnie and Smee would have become best friends. That I'd have
Oh,
been fine with. Her and Cherry, just get Cherry off this island. I am sick of
Cherry
her bullshit.
Cherry needs a new life. She needs
She really
she
does.
just she just
Poor
needs a fresh
Cherry.
start. Really. We learn that the trade forced me coming to look at Winnie. It is for the return of Cherry. And the men come up with some plan to
They're throwing her a
prolong it.
party.
And I think they're gonna try to figure out
They're
what
still
happened.
pissed. They need to find out, especially Vane. He needs to find out what happened,
Yeah.
and he will get it out of Cherry.
So they end up getting an extra day under the guise that they're gonna be throwing her a party. there's this exchange here between Bash and Smee. I wanna read this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
Smee says, "If she's not returned to Hook by tomorrow safe and sound, I'll tear out all of your eyeballs and eat them in a dipshit stew, got it?" And Bash laughs. I love him.
Yeah.
I love him. Bash laughs and says, "Smee, you always were my favorite pirate." She smiles at him and says, "And you are my favorite dipshit." He claps his hand in admiration and laughs again. "Let me walk you out." I
For somebody who didn't read this book word for word, you sure got a lot of quotes here. You remember
I
so much more than I do. And I basically
I
read
s
this word for
I
word.
skim, but I am a very good skimmer.
You are.
I'm really an excellent skimmer. Yeah, my notes are chef's kiss. We're back to Rock. Rock is starting to take over the story. She now, I realize, was kind of setting him up for his own book, but at the time that I was reading it, I didn't
No,
know that. It just made
no.
sense to have multiple POVs based on the
It's a
size of.
lot of POVs here. That's why I didn't really Bash and Cass didn't make an impression on me in this book because there's so many POVs.
One of the reasons that this book is so hard to recap is because a lot of what's happening is this deep dive into the nuanced elements of each of the relationships with each of the people on these islands. They've been alive for
Thousands, millions, who knows?
they have so much history. It's the dynamics are so unique between each of them, and a lot of the book is exploring each of those individual dynamics of each of those people and how Rock interacts with Pan versus how Rock interacts with Vane versus how he interacts with the royal family versus and it's not just Rock, we're getting that with all of the characters,
I
and
do really like that. And we're getting some of those backstories that we did before, which does really build that connection with us too, with the reader
yeah,
to these characters.
yeah. I think it's great. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, but it did make it really hard to recap.
Yeah, it did.
So we're back to Rock, who, along with the royal family, is making a visit to the Fae to see Tilly. I think this part right here is why I love Rock so much.
Mhm.
I have another quote for this one. Let me get
I put some notes here too of my thoughts while I was reading this because
Mhm.
I agree. This
Yeah,
scene really for me solidified Rock.
100%.
Love.
Yeah. Rock is the only person in this room who's not royalty. We have the royal family is here. We have Tilly, who is the queen of the Fae, and everybody is bowing except for Rock. I think for a character who's written like Rock, the instinct for me was to think, "Oh, well, obviously he's not gonna bow, and there's gonna be some sort of power struggle, and it's gonna erupt into chaos, and the alliance is gonna be destroyed." But that's not what happens. Rock says, "In current company, I'm the only non-royal here. Don't just stand there," Holt says, "bow to the queen." The fake queen lifts an eyebrow. "I know they all think that this is some kind of degradation, the royals putting the peasant in his place, but I fall easily to my knees. The Fae Queen is pleased with this, as if by bowing to her, I've relinquished something. People like the Queen don't realize that by giving them what they want, I take something in return. Pride is everyone's greatest weakness, that and fucking. I've watched grown men lose their minds over a hole. I lose my mind over just two things, blood and shelled peanuts." Can I tell you the reason that I love this?
Yeah,
You're so
please
you're
do.
so
I
kidding.
am.
I love this because again, it reinforces that the practice of bowing only gives you power if it believes that it gives you power.
Yeah,
And to me, it doesn't give you any power. I can fucking bow to you because I don't give a fuck because
yeah.
I know that I could eat you whole in the blink of an eye. You are not the one with power here. It doesn't matter what I do to appease you. And I just love that.
Yeah.
I just love that about him.
And this whole scene is too where he's again in his head
Mhm.
thinking about how everybody probably underestimates Tilly
Mhm.
and how women are often underestimated. And he's just this almost admiration for these powerful women.
Yeah.
Love that.
No, he's great.
And I love when it's like the scariest men
Mhm.
who
Yeah.
are the secret
Don't we all love
feminists.
that? Oh
Yeah.
my god. Actually, your husband is
It's
like that.
giving Dave.
Yeah, for sure. Tilly's strategy to rid herself of Pan is to insert him as the hurdle standing between the royals and Vane. So she's sort of aligning Pan as the enemy, not Vane.
Well, she's saying here that in order to get the shadow from Vane, they have to kill Pan,
Mhm.
and in order for Vane to get back with his brother, Pan's gotta go.
The group learns here that there's another darling on the island, and we get Rock's perspective on his feelings for Wendy. So this is kind of what I was talking about before. He, at this point, still believes her to be dead, and he expresses here from his point of view that he is endlessly fascinated by women, but he was in total awe of Wendy, and that he would never let a woman collar him, but for Wendy, he would make that exception. He talks about how she's the only person who's ever beat him at chess, which is
Mhm.
impressive for a mortal woman to beat an immortal man at chess. And that every time that he thought that he was getting ahead of her, he was in fact 2 steps ahead of him, which
Yeah.
I think is also very impressive, and it really made me wanna meet her.
As a human woman, that is super impressive. She had all of these men fawning all over her,
Mhm.
but respecting her,
Mhm.
which Winnie also has with those 4.
But it's different because Winnie is using her physicality to accomplish that, and it sounds like Wendy is
She's her
using
mind.
her intellect.
Yes.
And it's such a different they're both very valid and
Mhm.
very reasonable resources to leverage as women,
Yeah.
but it's interesting that this author has created 2 very different women who are powerful in their own ways, and then you also have Smee, who is also a powerhouse, and
Yeah.
she doesn't necessarily use intellect or her body, she more uses her
She's the
street
street
smart
smart. Yeah.
and her kind of knowledge of the happenings of the different islands in the world as, like, leverage against these men, and it's so good.
Nikki St. Crowe can really write powerful women.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the royal party is angered by discovering that Pan has had his shadow returned, and they were not alerted to that before they came to the island. So they kind of defer to Rock at this point to see what he's willing to contribute, and he asks for the secrets that he was promised. And this is where Tilly reveals that Wendy is alive on an eternal island and that Peter Pan knows her whereabouts. And just a quick side note here, while this conversation is happening, Rock is sort of circling Tilly's throne, and there is a marker on the back of the throne for a specific island or a specific kind of secret society that created the throne, and he mentions that it's imbued with dark magic that the queen likely doesn't know about, and that is important later.
Yes.
I didn't know that the first read.
No, me either.
He asks Tilly to show him, and she begrudgingly does. And in the vision, we see Pan fighting with men on an island. They're taking Wendy. It's all a very dramatic scene. And as he is flying away for his own life and Wendy is being taken, she yells out after him to find Rock. And Rock exits the vision with tears in his eyes, which
We love a sensitive man.
a sensitive man. Now we're sort of getting a little bit of the soap opera drama that is the Hook, Rock, and Wendy. It's kind of starting to unfold. We don't get all of the details here, those come a little bit later, but
Again, setting up a series for Rock and Hook.
Wendy did not come to the island pregnant, but she left the island pregnant. And because of what Vane is, he cannot reproduce. But being that Hook is from a royal
A
line
human.
in England, this kind of starts to get a little messy
Yeah. Rock
because
knows.
Rock figures out in that moment that Hook impregnated Wendy. Rock and Vane are now reunited. Vane is trying to get the information about Darling from Cherry, and we are once again prevented from having that be exposed, which
Yep.
is so annoying. I was so frustrated. I was like, please just figure out that it is
It
that
took
shadow.
way too long
It was
to get there.
oh god, it was painful.
And it's a short book.
It's only a 200-page book. So Rock demands Vane takes him to the new darling and to Pan.
Can I also say with that cute little thing where Rock just like jumps out of the shadows and tackles Vane?
Yeah.
It felt kind of fast Bash and Cas to me, where just nothing serious. this brother, they're quarreling for centuries,
Mhm.
but then they see each other and just gotta tackle it out. I loved that.
They do have a really fun dynamic. You can tell that even though they are a little bit antagonistic towards one another, that there's so much love there. The thing that I really loved about their dynamic is that I know that Pan says once he has his shadow back that he doesn't have to be afraid of Vane anymore, but I think everybody kind of is still a little bit afraid of Vane.
Mhm.
And I think in all of the other reading that we've done about Vane, he is always the scariest person in the room. And now Rock comes in, and Rock is scarier than Vane for
Yeah,
sure.
and does not have a shadow.
He does not have a shadow. And I think that that dynamic is very fun to sort
I
of have
agree.
flipped on its head. Pan and Winnie are gonna take a little day trip. They're gonna go to the only city in Neverland, which is Darlington Port. Appropriate. Pan finds Winnie a much needed pair of shoes, and the shoemaker at the shop that they go to bows to Winnie, which, again, Peter Pan, big dumb fucking idiot, wasn't like, "That's weird." He was like, "No man will be on his knees before you but me." Like, okay,
Which you would
don't
think,
you think it's odd? I don't know.
yeah, you
Yeah.
would think that he'd be fine with people treating Winnie like a queen.
Yeah, I guess so. I thought it was more like, don't you think something's wrong? Like, you're not there's
Oh,
never
no,
there's never a point in here where
no,
he's like, "We should probably look into this. She has amnesia. She's got this weird voice going
she's got
on.
some
This
energy.
wolf is following her around. She can hear and feel us all over the place, and this man is now bowing to her, and he's like, 'I'm gonna eat that pussy and nobody else is.'"
Big dumb idiot.
Big dumb
It
idiot,
really is.
sure.
He is supposed to be this just super powerful person and just can't read any of the signs.
No.
Come on.
Vane's power no longer affects her, and he's like, "This means we get to take her
Yeah,
together."
she has overcome it. Like, Pan, you can't overcome it, but Winnie can. This 18-year-old human person.
Yeah. It
Really?
yeah, he is just a big dumb
Ugh.
idiot. After they buy the shoes, Pan takes Winnie to a tavern for some food, and we get back to Rock and Vane. Rock shares that he Rock shares that the Romaldi family traveled with him to the island, and it is kind of insinuated that Rock really does feel like the shadow belongs with that family.
I feel like he just didn't care.
Well,
Like, he doesn't care if his brother has a shadow or not, so might as well just give it back and
I know, but I think also he is very aggressive about making sure that it gets back.
yeah.
He gives him a timeline and basically says, "If you don't have the shadow back to us before sunrise, he'll let the time run out."
Do
Quote.
you think, though, that's because now he found out about Wendy, so there is actually something at stake here? Now he has a reason to want Pan dead, and if he gets rid of Vane's shadow, there's a better chance he could easily
Yeah.
overcome Pan. I got the vibe that was just more of, now there's more at stake. I don't really give a shit if my brother has the shadow or not, so we're
Mhm.
gonna give it back so that they will help me kill Pan, because fuck this guy who left Wendy and didn't tell me
Mhm.
that she was screaming at me,
Yeah,
which was just
heartbreaking.
yes,
He does say that he now has 3 things to preoccupy his mind: blood, shelled peanuts, and revenge.
yes,
So
which we can all relate to.
oh, absolutely, I love shelled peanuts.
I was gonna say except the shelled peanut. I'll take the cashews, though. You know I love
Okay, you do
cashews.
love cashews. Back to Pan and Darling. So we're doing a lot of back and forth
I was
here.
just gonna say it's a lot.
It's a lot. It makes the notes really hard. If you're still listening, we really appreciate
We
you.
really do. It gets good.
It
It
does.
gets good. It gets worth it.
It does.
Maybe not as worth it as the last book.
Yeah.
I just can't. The tree.
Yeah, I'm ready for this series to be over.
Same.
Yeah.
The first 2 were magical.
The
First
first
2
2,
books are magical.
yeah.
The second 2 have a lot of story going on.
Mhm.
They lose some of that smutty magic.
They really do, but they're still good, solid
Oh, yeah, they're great. I would
stories.
love to be there for the sex scenes,
Yeah.
but
Oh, now you wanna be there for the sex scenes. Okay,
the
fine.
second scene I like,
Mm,
but the last book had, like, 4.
you like the second scene? Oh my god, those are the between the 2, you chose the second scene?
Yes.
I love that we disagree on this book. That makes me so
You
happy.
chose that tame scene when this other one is full of you'll see. We'll get there.
Fine. Back to Pan and Darling. And who should walk into the tavern that they're eating at, but none other than the Romaldi royal family. They get cocky with Pan, they talk shit about Darling, and the Death Shadow takes over, and Darling viciously murders the royal queen and the princess. Rock intervenes, and Winnie overpowers Rock with the Death Shadow, which is terrifying. He's dying at this point. Pan freaks out, flies Winnie home, and feels like he needs to protect her from Vane. So he's kind of hiding her and in his tomb.
Well, he doesn't want to have to say, like, hey, your spiritual person just murdered your brother. That's okay.
Yeah. That's complicated.
Yeah, it gets a little rough.
So messy.
Because you never know how Vane will react to anything.
He's unpredictable.
Yes.
For sure. This part was also interesting to me because of how much change we see with Pan, again, with how he cares for Winnie. He's always, prior to this, been very, almost like unsure. Like he knew that he cared about her. He knew that he felt possessive of her, but he really, I don't think, had come to terms with himself that he loved her. And I think he's come to terms with the fact that he loves her here.
The magnitude of how much he loves her.
Yeah. And he's very like doting on her here and like concerned about her safety and really considering having to choose between her and Vane and realizing that he would probably choose her. We're back with Hook and Smee. I am a stan for Smee. I hate Hook even more. He's so fucking neurotic. I can't even deal with him. And they hear a knock on the door, and who is it? None other than Rock, who has come to them to help.
He's like falls over the threshold and is dying and bleeding.
Yeah. And we get
there's some vibes there.
There's some vibes here.
We love it.
I was living for.
Yeah.
Hook is saying things like he's feeling excited, and then he'll follow it up with excited to kill him. And then he's excited about seeing him shirtless, and then he's excited to see him shirtless with my sword in his gut.
Yes.
And it's very clear that there is some sexual tension happening here.
Yes.
Hook even mentions that all of the men in his territory are fat and lazy. And
you need to read the next series. I know you won't read it until it's done.
Yeah.
But
don't leave me. I can't handle. Could you imagine if you had read the first one?
I know.
Of this series and then had to wait a year for the next one?
I feel like for a 200-page book, she's probably knocking out a couple a year.
I hope so, because I'm ready to read the next series.
I wonder. I should look that up and see.
Yeah. I think there's a pre-order for the second book of the Devourer of Men series.
And that first one came out within the last 6 months, probably.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe 2 a year-ish.
They're sort of debating whether or not to help him, and they end up helping him. And he is now staying with Hook and Smee.
In his bed.
I
love that.
We're back to Darling. So Darling is spiraling about having the Death Shadow. She wakes up. Pan explains to her she has the Death Shadow. She killed the queen and the princess. And she is kind of losing her mind because she can't believe that she would do that. She can't believe that she would kill anybody. She can't believe that she has the Death Shadow because she doesn't feel like she has a shadow. And in her spiraling, starts kind of hunting the house for the other men. And she comes face to face with Vane. And this is where Winnie starts to get a sense of her shadow sort of being its own entity. It's kind of talking to her, and she is resisting it still at this point. Winnie is 100% in on this, what the Shadow's got planned, but she's also still fighting against it. And
she's still kind of like, she wants to be afraid, but the Shadow is like, slap that motherfucker.
Absolutely. Yeah. So she slaps Vane across the face, and they're in this kind of sexy verbal sparring match. And he lets his shadow out and aggressively starts fucking Winnie against the bar. And then as things begin to escalate, she's like goading.
Yeah.
She's like scratching him. She's making him bleed. The shadow is doing a lot of the talking here. And he basically pulls out of her, steps back, and says, "If you wanna fucking play, then we're gonna fucking play. Run."
Yep. And
And
Bash, Kas, and Pan are all there watching all this happen.
right, smoking cigarettes, as they do. Can you imagine getting railed against a bar
Oh my
while
god.
some sexy motherfucker,
Yeah.
half-dressed, leans against a bar smoking a cigarette?
Mhm. Yeah.
So Winnie runs, of course, because Winnie would never back down from a challenge, and the men all decide that whoever gets to her first gets their choice of hole, and the chase is on.
Yeah.
The twins find her first, as is the tradition.
They always do. Bash
Bash
always has to have her
Bash
first.
always gets her first.
Even though Vane kind of already did, but
Kind of, yeah.
still, this is a new game.
This is a new game. Cass blindfolds her. Bash gets her on her knees. He's gonna take her mouth. Cass is gonna take her from behind. They both come. Just as they're finishing, Vane comes out of the air and
Just scoops her up.
scoops her up, and Pan and Vane take her together at once in the air.
Yeah.
And when we say at once, this is double vaginal penetration. So, in kind of the pain, Darling lets the shadow take over. They're flying around and basically fucking in the air until everybody
They
comes.
rip her dress off. She's just naked in the air.
What page does that start on?
All right. This is a good one. So all of this, it's a big scene. So it's page 129 is where it starts with the Vane stuff, and then goes to page 145. So that's a hefty scene.
Yeah.
You can see why I like this one more.
I can. They return to the treehouse. The shadow is talking to Winnie, and they're interrogating her about it, and all of a sudden she has this realization that it was Cherry, that Cherry set her up.
Yeah. She doesn't want to tell them at first.
She doesn't want Cherry to get in trouble, but the death shadow inside of her is telling her that she has to tell them because then they will kill Cherry and prove their loyalty to her. So the death shadow is bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
Winnie agrees and tells them.
Yeah. She's like, all right.
We're back to our little soap opera between Hook and Rock. The next couple of chapters, it's just Hook and Rock doing a fun little dance.
That's the buildup that I like.
Around. It is a very enemies to lover.
Yeah.
Hook still has some really tense feelings, obviously, about having his arm.
Yeah, he chopped his arm off and then drank his blood.
Yeah.
What a scene.
By the crocodile, but he can't let go of maybe some feelings that he has for Rock. And this is where we learn that the Rock is a member of a secret society called the Bone Society, and that as a member of this society, he has to be constantly watching the time, because if the time runs out and he hasn't gotten his blood, he will turn into a beast. So prior to this, we knew he needed the blood. We didn't understand
why.
It's because he turns into a beast. He turns into an actual crocodile.
This is where, too, we find out that Smee knew what Rock was. She comes in, and Rock's like, you know what I am. And she's like, yeah, I do. But didn't tell Hook.
We're back to Cherry. She's supposed to be returned today, but plans have changed because now Vane knows what she did. And he is chasing her down to kill her and is saved by Smee, who has a special blade because Smee knows what he is, has a special blade to gut Vane. And the wound is not healing, and the men decide that they are going to take him to the lagoon to try and heal him. Winnie takes him into the water, and Smee returns to Hook with Cherry, where they're kind of talking about the events. Again, everybody is getting caught up on everything. There's a lot of that happening in this book because there's so many players. There's so many things happening between all these different, and everybody knows at least one party in another section, and so they're constantly kind of updating
And
each
it
other.
is kind of hard to keep up with who knows what. Because I'll read that, and I'm like, we already knew that. But then I realized, oh, no, he didn't know. They knew.
And they all react so differently to each tidbit of news. And so
I was going crazy that Hook didn't know yet.
Mhm.
That was another thing like the shadow where I'm like, somebody needs to tell this motherfucker that he has a baby out there and that Winnie is his great something.
But also, I kept thinking he knew that already.
Ugh,
Yeah,
just frustrating.
you had to have a lot of patience with all of the idiocy of
Yeah.
the people in this book. It's kind of one of those things where it's like in the scary movies where if the one person would just tell the secret, we could just
Yeah.
avoid all of the chaos,
Mhm.
and they just die with that secret.
Yep.
Just communicate, all right? Talking never hurt anybody.
That's why I tell everything.
Yeah.
We don't have any secrets.
No, we don't.
Tell everything.
No. Oops. Maybe a little unhealthy.
Hmm.
But this scene also, again, reestablishes how neutral that Smee truly is because she is talking with Rock. And first of all, I love that she charged Rock for the information. Rock is like, you know more about this. And
Mhm.
Smee is like, obviously, I knew it's going to cost you a shilling. Like, all right, here's your fucking coin. Tell me the secret.
Queen.
And she knew the whole time about the whereabouts of Winnie Darling and never told Hook. And she also returned the baby, Hook and Wendy Darling's baby, to the mortal world.
Yep.
And the reason that she does that is to keep the status quo. Very neutral party.
Mhm.
Tilly, the remaining royal family, Hook and Rock, all head to the lagoon to head off our little treehouse love pod while they're healing Vane in the waters. They arrive before he's fully healed. Vane decides that he's going to sacrifice himself and carry Winnie up to a cliff.
Yeah, it's gonna get her out of harm's way.
And up on the cliff, he's still healing. He's still bleeding. He's still not well. He and Winnie are cornered on the cliff by the new Grimaldi king because the queen and the princess have both been murdered. So
Yep.
now Holt is the new king of the Grimaldi, and he steals the shadow from Vane by
He-
pushing a
yeah.
shell. So he has the knowledge of how to
He at
capture.
least knows how to get the
He
shadow.
has his own tether, which is a shell.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, on the beach, Rock has turned on Tilly and the Fae and is devouring Fae soldiers whole. When I say whole, I mean opening up his jaws over their bodies,
And they just cease to
and
exist.
they just cease to exist.
Like there's no evidence that they were even there.
Yeah.
And he just eats all of them.
Yeah.
Hooks people, the face shoulder, everybody.
He starts to kind of go nuts
Mhm.
and just start it like
Yeah, but that was their plan. That was Hook and Rock's plan is
Mhm.
to just let him go. And Hook's like, "But he won't eat me."
Right. Because he secretly loves
yeah.
me.
Idiot.
Back up on the cliff with Winnie. So they're in this life or death situation. Holt has taken Vane's shadow. Vane is starting to deteriorate quickly because
He's dying.
he doesn't have the magic of the shadow to sustain him
Yeah.
anymore. And Winnie has this conversation. She's been asking this whole time for the shadow to come out and help her. And the shadow is like, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yep.
I don't
You're on your
care
own.
about whether or not he has the
Mhm.
shadow. This is not my fight.
Yeah.
You figure it out. Winnie here accepts the shadow. She takes it in as part of herself, which brings us back to the dedication of being dedicated to all the girls who were afraid to embrace the dark side of themselves. This is Winnie really embracing the darkness that she has inside of her.
When she says, "Because I'm Winnie fucking Darling and no man will steal my power."
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with that because I think it is very taboo for women to be sometimes powerful and embracing some of that darkness.
Mhm.
And Winnie realizes that that's how she's going to save Vane and maybe save everybody and kill these guys. I love it.
It's so great. So she says this to herself. She accepts the dark shadow, and she has a soldier kind of holding a knife to her throat. She overpowers the soldier. She kills him. And just as she's doing this, Holt pushes Vane off the side of the cliff. And without a second thought, Winnie dives over the edge of the cliff after him. She catches him midair and encircles him with the shadow that she still has just as they hit the water. They come out of the water. Miraculously, they both survived. And now Vane is magically healed.
Yeah, Winnie says to her shadow, she's having that inner monologue conversation with her shadow, and Shadow's like, "I don't care about him." And she's like, "If you care about me, you care about him." And that
He is an extension of me.
yes,
The shadow takes that very literally and
splits himself.
passes it on into Vane.
Yeah.
And so now Vane and Winnie are sharing the Neverland death shadow. Pan, Vane, and Winnie are reunited in this moment, and they confront Holt, where Darling kills him gloriously. She makes him strip down naked.
Well, he doesn't know how to claim the shadow. He's a
Yeah.
fucking idiot.
I know. He
He gets
knew
the
how to
shadow.
capture it, but didn't know how to. I wonder, I skimmed it, so maybe I missed it. Do you think that at some point Smee or Hook passed that information of how to tether the shadow because they saw Pan do it?
That could be. They also, because they had the shadow previously, is what it sounds like.
Sure,
So they may have known to start with.
sure.
We don't find these things out.
That's true.
These are questions I need answered.
It seems odd to me that he would know how to tether it, but he wouldn't know
Yeah,
how to claim
how to
it.
claim it. Yeah.
Although they did kind of mention that it's a dual
Yes.
claiming.
Yeah. Vane says that the shadow has to also claim you.
And maybe he's not so interested in Holt, especially after he's been with somebody as powerful as Vane.
Yeah. Holt seems like a bitch.
Mhm. One of the other things that I struggled with the shadows was that these shadows sort of exist outside of Neverland. They exist outside of Pan's existence.
Yeah.
But the existence of the shadows to me feels innately Pan in origin.
Well, it seems interesting that the shadow is so tied to the existence of Neverland. Like they're going to lose Neverland
Right.
if Pan doesn't get the shadow back.
Mhm. But
So
at
is
some
that happening?
Yeah. At one point, Vane says the shadow belongs to no man. Rock says back to him, there is a man that you know that I think would disagree with you on that. Pan was created by this island. What was he created to do if not to have the shadow?
But again, this is like that first series that we know there's 7 other islands. I'm gonna guess we'll probably get 7 other series. So it is possible
That
that
could be
on
fun.
these other right? That because there's Pleasure Island.
Mhm.
I wanna read all about that.
Mhm.
But I just wonder if these other islands, do they also have the Pan
Mhm.
or the island will die without him having the shadow. It's a weird
It
and I
is
hadn't
interesting.
thought about that until literally you just said that. Now I have a lot of thoughts that I haven't quite processed.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in the next
Yeah.
one. So basically, a battle has ensued, and our primary players have survived. They're victorious. And our story is sort of ending here. It wraps up with Hook and Rock leaving the island with Cherry to go after Wendy and find Cherry a home.
Hook doesn't take Rock. He leaves him. He said, "Tell him where I went."
Oh, that's right. I skimmed. Smee is staying behind to run Hook's territory, and Tilly is haggling, negotiating,
With the
bargaining
lagoon?
with the lagoon. She is
She's
desperate.
forfeiting. She's like, "This is it. I cannot lose again."
And she says, "This is the thing that I have of most value, which is this incredibly ornate, very old family heirloom, their throne, which, as we talked about earlier, is imbued with dark magic." The book ends on the lagoon giving something back. And initially, we don't learn what that is. We
Right.
learn,
We have
there's
to wait
thunder and
see
lightning, and we get into the epilogue, and everybody's hanging out, having a
which they're all sleeping in the same in the tomb probably.
all playing cards, and they're hanging out. And Peter Pan steps outside on the balcony to get a little bit of air. And Tinkerbell steps out from the shadow and says, "Hello, Peter Pan." And the story ends. So Tilly's weapon that the lagoon gave her in return for the throne was to revive her mother the same way that it revived the wolf. And that's the end of the story.
Setting it up for some chaos. Let's get into the ratings.
All right. What's the first one?
Spice level.
Spice level, I'm going to give this one a 3.
I gave spice level a 4
Why? Because of
because
the DP.
yes, I felt it was more graphic than I felt it was about just as graphic as the second book.
Mm,
Not as tame as the first book,
Sure.
But I will say, yeah, the DP is something that I would say the level is higher.
I gave it a 3. I considered giving it a higher because I do think that DP is a little bit of a more advanced
Yeah.
kind of spice
Mhm.
level, but I think there's a little bit of a cop out in that the shadow takes over.
Sure. But she does in that scene, she fucks all 4 of them. So that level
But
as
only 2
well,
but only 2 at a time.
2 at a time. So no big
There's
deal. Give for spice frequency.
spice frequency, I'd give this a 1.
A 1.
Yeah.
Dang. I gave it a 3 still.
What?
I know.
Those 2 scenes?
I know.
You gave it a 3 with 2 scenes?
I'm regretting that decision.
You should never regret your decisions because of my decisions. I think if we're comparing this to the last book, where it was so it was
But I
such
gave the last book a 5.
I know,
I
but,
would give
like
ACOTAR a 1.
yeah. ACOTAR, you would
Not
give
ACOTAR,
no, I wouldn't give
the
ACOTAR.
2nd one.
Yeah, I would give the second one a 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think this is
How many times do they only have sex, like, 2 or 3 times in
yeah,
ACOTAR
quite. Yeah,
in the
I
second
suppose.
yeah. I think they had sex. It
Yeah.
was not a pivotal part of this book.
No.
Even the sexual tension that was sort of being built between
Mhm.
Hook and Rock was not the same as the sexual tension that was built between Kas and Bash. And not to mention the fact that we only get 1 sex scene with Kas and Bash.
That's true.
I
That's true.
I frequency on this, I gave it a 1. This is
Right.
not a book that I would read if I was wanting
No,
the mood. This would
absolutely
not
not.
be
I forgot. Pretty much I forgot all of the 4th book as well.
yeah.
The 1st and 2nd book I remembered.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Those are memorable.
Mhm.
Alright, what about storyline?
Storyline, I'm gonna give a 3.
Okay. I
Mhm.
gave it a 4. I feel like it set up some really good storylines, and
I
I do really like that.
yeah.
It did bounce around a lot,
Mhm.
but just the overall storyline.
I gave it a 3 because I am invested in the next storyline.
Yes.
I'm not invested in this storyline. There could
Yes.
be 5 other storylines off of this one
Yes.
storyline, but the storyline itself is pretty basic.
Yeah,
They
it's
Darling has a dark shadow, and she shares it with Vane.
yeah,
That's really the the crux of the story, which
yeah,
isn't that interesting in and of itself.
very true.
But the fact that we have brought in all of these other players, and all these other players are so well written and so interesting,
Yes.
that's why I am invested in the next one, and I did
Yeah,
give it a little bit higher of a rating.
sure.
But overall, like, the story itself is just not that interesting to me.
Yeah. Alright, prose. How well is it written?
Like a 4.
I gave it a 4 too. All of that, the characters were so well written.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm really invested. I feel like Rock really could have not made the impression that he did
Mhm.
very easily,
Mhm.
but she really made us super invested in his character,
Right away.
and he's in 1 book,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we're so invested enough for a whole another series.
There was a lot of bouncing around in
Mhm.
this book, and it's only 214 pages, and despite that, it was so well done. I felt like she would go to the next person, and I'd be like, "Yes, I'm so excited to hear what they have to say." And
Mhm.
then she'd go to the next person. It was like we were getting just enough of each of the people to continue to be invested in the rest of the
Sure.
people and still be engaged in the focal point of the book. She's a great writer. I think she does a great
I
job.
completely agree. Alright, overall,
I'm gonna give it a 3.
I also gave it a 3 just because of the bouncing around
Mhm.
and kind of getting confused on who knows what.
Mhm.
I thought we already knew this. It took a little too long to get to some of those big reveals, and then it wasn't even that big of a reveal, especially, like, we really glossed over Winnie being Hook's, like, great-great-great-granddaughter.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
Hook finds out, and he's pissed, but
Right.
it's really glossed over for that big of a reveal.
Yeah,
It's a huge reveal.
absolutely.
So
I gave it a 3 because I feel like I enjoyed it. I
yeah,
probably won't read it again.
no, same. The
So,
first 2 I still will go back to,
yeah, absolutely.
but
That might change once I get into the new series where I wanna come back and revisit the foundations of what
Yeah.
launched that story,
Yep.
but I wouldn't read it again just for reading's
No,
sake, but I still think that it's a good book, so
I agree.
3.
And then it's on Kindle Unlimited. You can buy it at, like, Target, Amazon. It is very accessible. Kindle Unlimited. Just love.
Not at the library, though.
It's not at the library. I know.
Darn it. What are we reading next?
We are reading The Fae Princess next, the
Ooh.
conclusion to our
Lost Boys series.
Ambitious Lost Boys.
Ooh.
Can't wait.
What's it gonna be about?
Who knows?
What could it
So
be?
maybe this will give me my dose of Bash and Cass that I
Mhm.
didn't get in this book, which kinda made
Mhm.
me forget about them.
Mhm. Oh, that's so
I
sad.
know. I know.
I love Bash so much.
I do love how you kinda go back and forth.
Ah,
I
well,
pick one,
I
and
know.
I am invested. I stick with it no matter what.
Mhm.
Well, that's a lie.
You're
I
so
let Tamlin loose.
you're such a loyalist.
I know,
You did let Tamlin
I
loose
did,
real
and
fast.
I was real Team
I was
Tamlin.
never a fan of
Mhm.
Tamlin. It was not challenging for me. I'm gonna go home and read that book tonight.
I am not. We have too many other books that we need to
No,
read.
I know when I was up late last night reading smut, so I was so tired today
What
that
were
I
you
had
reading last night?
I
Because you weren't reading this.
think it's called Guild. It's
Oh,
about
yeah, yeah. Yep. Mhm.
I don't love it so
Yeah.
far. I'm having a hard time getting into it. It's about Midas, and he has basically a golden woman, a woman that he loved and turned to gold, but he's a king, and so he keeps her in a cage, and
Hmm.
I'm not loving it so far,
No,
but
no. Well, maybe you could read Bagging the Blue Liner to get us set for November.
Ah! Bagging the blue liner is on my list. I'm writing it
Yeah,
down right now so I don't
yeah.
forget it. All
All
right.
right. Well, we will see you guys next
Oh my
week.
god.